Well, hello again, my fellow classic rock guitar heads. Today on Awesome Riff of the Day and How to Play It, we're going to have a look at the heavily Hendrix-influenced riff to Robin Fishface Trower's Day of the Eagle from his classic 1974 album Bridge of Sighs. Fishface being the unfortunate and rather unkind nickname given to Trower because of one particular facial expression that he employed over and over and over again whilst playing his particular brand of Hendrix-infused blues rock guitar. You fellow guitarists out there can easily imagine just what that guitar face is, I suppose. You know, we've all employed it at one time or another. Regardless, in the late 60s and early 70s, Robin Trower began his rise to stardom as the guitarist for the piano and keyboard-heavy British group Procol Harum, of Whiter Shade of Pale fame. A very mellow Whiter Shade of Pale. Obviously not the greatest band in the world to be in for a rather flashy heavy rock blues player to show off his considerably growing and improving guitar chops. After a few years of this, Trower had had enough and forged out on his own around 1972. Hendrix, his main and self-admitted guitar inspiration, had left a massive gaping hole in the heavy blues rock guitar universe after his death, and Trower was more than willing and capable of stepping in to try and fill that void. With his debut solo album, Twice Removed from Yesterday, released in 1973, Trower turned out to be an effective interpreter of the Hendrix sound, and not what numerous others who came in Hendrix's wake would prove to be. Just mere imitators. Though nowhere near as flashy a personality or player as Hendrix himself, Trower knew that there was a blues rock guitar void to fill in the early 70s, and he would proceed to take Hendrix's style, tone it down a little bit, and somewhat make it his own. None more so than on his second album, 1974's Bridge of Sighs, of which Day of the Eagle, arguably the most Hendrix-like track on the album, and the riff we're looking at today, kicks the album off. Now, while his debut certainly found an audience and a limited amount of success, it was Bridge of Sighs that exploded worldwide and made him a 70s guitar god in his own right, actually getting as high as number 7 on the Billboard charts in America. Throughout the 70s, Trower would fill stadiums all over the world, buoyed on the strength of the very Hendrix-sounding Bridge of Sighs album. That, coupled with his remarkable guitar playing, the void that Hendrix had left obviously could never be filled, but there was still obviously a market for the Hendrix style of guitar-driven blues rock, and Trower, like I said, was more than willing and capable of capitalizing on that. Bridge of Sighs is a remarkable album, and you really should check it out if you're unfamiliar. Too few people talk much about Robin Trower these days outside of classic rock guitar circles, and that is a bloody shame. I suppose part of that is that what he was mostly doing on the guitar and within his songwriting during the mid-70s had pretty much been done before, just a few short years earlier by Hendrix himself, of course. But like I said, 3, 4, 5 years after Hendrix's death, the market was still ripe for someone to come in and fill those shoes, those very big shoes, and Trower was the man to do it. However, with the passage of time, when we look back to the late 60s and early 70s, looking for that sound, we almost always turn to Hendrix himself and not Trower. And I suppose that is somewhat fair. Jimmy was Jimmy, one of the greatest innovators on the electric guitar in history. And though Trower wasn't just some imitator, he really wasn't bringing a whole lot of new and innovative techniques to the table in his playing, as remarkable as it was. A damn fine player, though, very much worth checking out for the uninitiated. Anyway, that's about enough chit-chat for today. But hey, the chit-chat is as much a part of these awesome Riff of the Day videos as the tutorials themselves, if you haven't noticed that already. My little rock and roll history lessons. But regardless, let's close in here a little bit on the fretboard and get at this. This is how to play the awesome opening riff to Day of the Eagle by the great Robin Trower. All right, Day of the Eagle by Robin Trower. We are in standard tuning for this one, and this is a very, very cool riff. So we're starting with this E5 chord, which is basically a power chord. You know, you got your power, your E power chord right there. You take it and you put it down here. And so we've got our index on the 2nd fret of the D string, our ring finger on the 4th fret of the G, power chord right there. And then we've got our pinky down here on 5. And we're playing those 3 strings together. It's basically an E5 chord. And you're kind of playing that rhythm, but faster. So it's just down, up, and then you stop it. So it's down, up, up, and then finally 1 down. So you repeat the down, up, up, like 4 or 5 times. And that's that. And then you move into this. So it's open E, 2 to 4, and then 2 to 4 again, and then 2 to 4 of the A. And then back into this again. And then you repeat that again. So you repeat that whole phrase 4 times. And this is where it ends, and you quickly jump up here, and you're doing a double stop. You've got your ring finger on 11 of the G string, and your pinky down here on 12, and you bend the G string like 3 times, kind of like that. And then we're into this. Now, I'm not sure, Jimmy, if Jimmy was playing this, he'd be playing it with the thumb over the top, kind of like this. Now, I don't know if Robin Trower, there's very few live videos of Robin playing this one, and the one that is on YouTube, is all it does is show him from behind, so it's kind of hard to see what he's doing. So there's 2 ways to play this. You can play it with the thumb over the top to play the bass note at the 9th fret of the low E. So he's playing little triplets. Sometimes he's hitting all 3 notes, kind of like that. And other times he's having a little mute in the middle of the 3 notes, kind of like that. And then he's bouncing it off the open E. And then back onto that note at the 9. And then down to a double stop on the 11, off to the double stop on the 9 of the D and the G. Now, I don't like playing it with my thumb over the top. I just like using my index finger to get that bass note. I find it a little bit easier. I'm not comfortable doing this, but... So, like I said, sometimes he's going bum, ba, 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 and other times he's going... He's hitting picking the 3 notes. And other times he's going with a little mute between the 1st and 3rd note. And he's mixing it up. So before he goes down to the double stop, he's hitting that 1 note again. Kind of like that. So I'm going to continue on by using my index finger, but if you're comfortable doing that, use your thumb. So he repeats that, I don't know, 8 times, something like that. So you're just in this position repeating that over and over again. And now it gets tricky. This is some tricky guitar playing going on here. So he moves it down to the bass note to the 7th fret of the low E. Playing that kind of little rhythm there. So he's grabbing that bass note at the 7th fret of the low E, and then he's making a double stop at the 7th fret and hammering onto the 8th fret of the G string. Kind of like that. And he repeats that twice. Kind of like that. And then we move into this. So he's sliding, and it's kind of a repeat of what we were playing earlier. He's sliding into 4 of the A and playing the same thing we played at the beginning. And then this part gets tricky. He's grabbing a bass note at the 4th fret. This part is actually easier to play with the thumb. And he's playing these little backwards D shape. This is a chord. I don't know what this chord is called. We are on, I've got my middle finger on the 6th fret of the G, my index back on the 5 of the B, and my ring finger down here on 6 of the high E. And that's kind of like a little backwards D formation. So he's grabbing the bass note at the 4th fret, and then he's grabbing that little shape and sliding it up 2 frets. And then grabbing it again. And he repeats that twice. And then he grabs the bass note at the 5th fret, the A note. And then he's taken that D shape. Now he's at the 8th fret position with his middle finger, and then index back on 7. Moves it up 1, and then moves it up 2. Kind of like that. That's a lovely little progression there. And then back into and then it just repeats all through the first 2 verses or so, and then there's a guitar solo, and then back into that again. And we're not covering the solo here tonight or today, but that's pretty much how you play the riff, the awesome riff of the day to Day of the Eagle by Robin Trower. So I hope that helped you out if you're looking to learn that great classic riff, very Hendrixy. And hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, and take care of yourself and those around you, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.